Before the big final exams, a popular girl named Clara had a disagreement with the most attractive guy at school. She then started seeking me out. I was just a quiet, dedicated student who spent all my time reading. Her best friend was completely shocked, asking Clara why she was wasting her time on someone like me. Clara just shrugged it off. "He's just an easy way to get extra help," she said. "How else am I supposed to get into the same college as Mark? Besides," she added, "Mark really wants that early acceptance spot. He won't get it unless we can make sure Alex doesn't stay in first place." And just like that, after the exam results were posted, both of them seemed to get what they wanted. At the graduation party, Clara made her relationship with the handsome guy public. Then she turned to me, David, and said, "The person I actually like is Mark. Stop bothering me from now on." Everyone expected me to break down in tears, to be completely crushed, but I just gave a small smile and acted like it was no big deal. They didn't know the truth. I had $20,000 from Clara's father in my pocket. It was the payment for my part in her plan all these years. The exact moment Clara and Mark officially became a couple, I was sitting in a meeting with Clara's father. While I waited, my close friend, Leo, sent me several texts. He sent a screenshot of a social media post. "David, you have to look at this. Clara and Mark are together. What happened? Weren't you her boyfriend?" I quickly read the messages and figured out the situation. Then I opened the photo. The picture was taken in a dimly lit, very romantic hotel room. Clara and Mark were holding hands, their fingers laced together. The post had many comments below, all from people we knew, offering congratulations. I wasn't bothered by that. My attention went straight to the caption Clara had written. "My deepest dream has come true." At first glance, it just looked like the typical happiness of a girl whose long-time crush finally became her reality. But I knew the actual story. It was much more than that. After all, I had heard Clara say it myself. "I must get into the same college as Mark. David? He's just a free tutor. Mark needs that early acceptance. How is he supposed to get it if we don't knock David out of the #1 spot?" Now, the college entrance exams were over and the scores were released. Mark had successfully secured his early acceptance, and Clara had done incredibly well, earning her best scores since she started high school. She could now apply to a college in the same city as Mark. In a way, how was that not her dream coming true? What truly shocked Leo, though, was the relentless effort I had put into helping Clara over the last 2 years. I had requested to change my seat so I could be her deskmate. I prepared study guides for her and made sure she practiced English vocabulary and key concepts every single day. I brought her an umbrella when she was caught in a sudden downpour. I even brought her medicine when she got sick during an important exam. To outsiders, it looked like I was some kind of dedicated hero, trying with all my heart to save a wild, rebellious girl from herself. In the beginning, Clara had ignored me completely. So, when she suddenly changed her tune, everyone just assumed she had been touched by my loyalty and hard work. For 2 years, Clara and I were never apart. With my help and supervision, the girl who was once always out partying had transformed into a focused, top-performing student. You could say that I was a major reason Clara was even going to college. So everyone in our class just assumed it was a guarantee. After all the effort I'd put in, after showing so much care for her, we were expected to start dating after graduation. No one saw this coming. The exam results had just been released, and Clara was already going public with Mark. Leo clearly couldn't accept her using me and then dropping me so quickly, or what looked like stabbing me in the back. His texts kept interrupting. They caught the attention of the person sitting across from me. "David, if you have something important, please feel free to text back," Clara's father reminded me kindly. I muted my phone. "It's nothing serious." He smiled and slid a debit card with $10,000 written on it across the table. "Thank you for helping Clara with her studies over these last 2 years. She was only able to get into college because of you. This is the rest of the payment for your tutoring. If you have any other requests, don't hesitate to ask. I will do my best to assist you." His smile was warm and welcoming. It reminded me of the first time he had approached me. "David, I heard you were the highest-scoring middle school student in the city on a special scholarship. I have a small favor to ask." I hadn't even met Clara at that time. The principal and my homeroom teacher had called me into the office. Clara's father was there, looking just as friendly as he did now. He said he had a daughter. Ever since her parents' marriage fell apart, she had become rebellious and difficult. They were worried she would waste her 3 years of high school. They wanted to find a smart student with good character to be her desk mate. "Here is $10,000. If you can help my daughter, support her, and get her into college, I'll give you another $10,000. $20,000 total." That was more money than my family had seen in over a decade. While I was still trying to process the offer, the principal had already accepted the card and made a promise. "Mr. Reed, please don't worry. Our teachers and students will all work together to help Clara." Clara's father nodded, looking completely satisfied. Now I had finished the task he requested. He was here to pay the rest of what he promised. "That's truly not necessary, thank you, sir." That initial $10,000 had allowed my family and me to live comfortably for 3 years. This new $10,000 would cover my upcoming college tuition and living expenses. I was more than satisfied and incredibly thankful. Clara's father seemed genuinely appreciative. Before leaving, he even told me that if I ever needed help, I could call him. I didn't respond to that. In high school, when we were studying old Chinese literature, I learned a phrase that essentially means the deal is finished. Now that Clara was going to college, my arrangement with him was over. After Clara's dad left, I opened my phone again. Leo had stopped texting, probably because I hadn't replied. Until I sent him a simple, "Got it." He replied instantly. "So, are you still going to the class party tonight?" Since the exam scores came out, most of our class had done quite well. Everyone had decided to get together for one last high school dinner. If it was only the students, I probably wouldn't have gone. But this dinner was also described as a thank you to our teachers, and our homeroom teacher and others were invited. They had all been supportive of me over the past 3 years. "I'll be there," I replied. At 7 o'clock, I arrived at the restaurant. I don't know if I was early or if I just showed up at a notable moment. The private room only had Clara, Mark, and a few other classmates inside. After a few quick greetings, the discussion turned to college plans. "Clara, where are you planning to apply?" "Is that even a question?" "With Mark, of course." "Exactly. Who do you think our girl was studying like crazy for this last year?" Before Clara could even answer, the room was filled with joking comments and laughter. Everyone there had seen Clara's social media post. They all knew about her and Mark. Mark just smiled, resting his head on Clara's shoulder without saying anything. Clara put her arm around his shoulders in a protective gesture. "Of course. I've always said I was going to the same city as Mark for college." Everyone laughed again, until someone asked a question. "So, does anyone know where our class president is applying?" The room suddenly went quiet. I was the class president. Back then, our homeroom teacher gave me the title as an excuse to get me to help Clara. Over the past 3 years, I'd lived up to the name by sharing my study notes with the whole class. Maybe I was imagining things. But I saw the smile on Clara's face briefly freeze. Mark noticed it too, and blinked. He'll probably apply to the same school as me. After all, our class president wanted that early acceptance spot too. True, his scores are definitely good enough. "Hey, Clara, do you know what David got?" someone asked, looking at her. Clara shook her head. "He didn't tell me." "No way! Aren't you two the closest? He didn't even tell you that?" Clara was quiet. She looked a little upset. Mark took her hand. "It's no big deal if you don't know. It would be kind of awkward if he actually did apply to the same school as me." "Why would it be awkward?" Mark pressed his lips together. "Everyone thinks I stole his early acceptance spot. He must be holding a grudge." Clara's forehead wrinkled. "He missed the test on his own. What does that have to do with you?" She patted Mark's hand to reassure him. "If you don't want him at the same school, I'll tell him to apply somewhere else." "Really? Would he actually listen to that?" Mark's eyes lit up, but his tone had a false concern to it. Clara scoffed. "When has he ever said no to me?" She wasn't wrong. To get Clara to actually pay attention and accept my tutoring, I had been completely agreeable to her every desire. Sometimes when she didn't want to memorize words, I even had to sweet-talk her. My complete lack of setting limits with her made everyone think I was a total pushover. Even Leo, my best friend, couldn't stand it. "David, why do you even bother with her?" He didn't understand. Clara's dad was paying me a lot of money. Besides, teaching her also helped me practice my own knowledge. It was a good arrangement for both sides. Hearing Clara's words, Mark relaxed and leaned happily on her shoulder again. The conversation about college had basically ended. They started a new topic inside. Just then, more classmates arrived at the elevator, including Leo, who had been texting me. "David, you're here. Why aren't you going in?" he shouted when he saw me standing by the door. He ran over, casually draped an arm around my shoulder, and pushed open the door to the room. The whole action was so fast and smooth that the people inside didn't even have time to react. I was pulled inside. When I looked up, my eyes met Clara's, but only for a moment. I quickly looked away. Clara, however, didn't. In fact, when she saw me ignore her, her brow creased again. The classmates who were already there said hello to us. Mark didn't speak, but he stayed very close to Clara. It was as if he was trying to remind me, to show off that his relationship with Clara was now at a new level. He didn't need to remind me. I had known for a long time. Back in our freshman year, the school was making a promotional video. They needed to choose 2 student representatives from the top 3 in our grade, 1 boy and 1 girl. The girl was already decided, Sarah, who was ranked 2nd. For the boy, the principal wanted to choose between me, the top-ranked student, and another student who was extremely good-looking. But while the principal was considering his options, Mark, a member of the student council, gave his opinion. "Sir, this video represents our school's image. We can't have such an average-looking guy on camera, can we?" At the time, I had just arrived from a rural middle school. Black pants, black shirt, black glasses. I even had thick, heavy bangs covering my forehead. Standing next to the fashionable, handsome, and striking Mark, I looked like I was from a completely different world. But David was the #1 student in the city's middle school system. That was the principal's dilemma. He wanted to use that to attract new students. Mark replied, "He was just a middle school champion. A lot of kids can't keep up once they get to high school." His words were filled with a clear lack of respect for me. I found out later. Before I arrived, Mark had been the #1 student at this school. He had gone through their entire system, attending the same campus from elementary to high school. The principal hesitated. Compared to me, an outsider who wasn't very photogenic, the other handsome student was clearly a better choice. And so, Mark became the male lead of the promotional video, showing off his talent and good looks. He became known as the school's heartthrob. As for Clara, she first noticed Mark because of that promotional video. Among Mark's many admirers, Clara was by far the most persistent. She was a wealthy kid, the type whose family often donated buildings to the school. Though she was flashy, wild, and didn't take anything seriously, you couldn't deny she had a beautiful, delicate face. Many boys at school had secret crushes on her. She pursued Mark relentlessly for an entire semester. Mark remained completely unmoved. "Clara, we're still students. We should be focused on our studies. I'm aiming for early acceptance to a top university. You can't even pass the basic requirements for college. Stop bothering me." Maybe being rejected by Mark again and again finally got to her. A young girl's pride is a stubborn thing. Clara didn't show her face around Mark for a whole month. When the next semester started, Clara suddenly transferred into our class. At first, everyone thought she was doing it for Mark, but the two of them acted like strangers, never speaking to each other. Clara sat alone in the back corner of the classroom and started to actually pay attention in class. But she had fallen so far behind. She ended up at the bottom of the class rankings. Until I came along. I greeted everyone who said hello to me and chose a seat on the opposite side of the room. More classmates arrived in small groups. The invited homeroom teacher and other faculty members also came. We talked about the past and looked forward to the future. The atmosphere was friendly and lively. At one point, Mark pulled Clara up, and they walked over to our homeroom teacher. "Mr. Harrison, here's a toast to you. Thank you for looking after us all these years." Our teacher's gaze paused on the two of them for a moment. Clara hadn't blocked anyone from seeing her social media post. In the past, he would have switched into full-on guidance counselor mode and given them a serious lecture. But now, we had all graduated. His eyes just held a mix of knowing resignation and amusement. His gaze fell on Clara. "I knew you had an underlying purpose when you transferred into our class, young lady." Clara gave a rare, shy, almost girlish smile. Then our teacher spoke again, this time more seriously. "Clara, once you're in college, you can't be like you were before." Mark said, "Don't worry, Mr. Harrison. I'll keep an eye on her." "Good. Then you can take over David's job, ha ha ha," the teacher laughed. He was actually the one who had recommended me to Clara's dad and the principal. He knew my family didn't have much money and always looked out for me. When he heard that Clara needed a desk mate like me, he arranged for me to be the one. For 2 years, Clara never knew, but the teacher and I had a silent agreement. Clara looked at me again. She probably thought about everything I'd done and wanted to say something. But Mark spoke first. "Speaking of which, I haven't thanked our class president yet. If it weren't for him, Clara and I wouldn't be able to go to college together." His smile was bright and striking. His tone, however, sounded sincere. After he finished, he even looked at Clara. "Right, Clara?" "Yeah," Clara nodded. "David, thank you for these past 2 years." "No need to thank me. I was just doing a job for someone, just completing the task I was hired to do." After tonight, Clara and I would likely never cross paths again. Clara didn't expect my attitude to be so cold. The look in her eyes turned instantly cold. Our homeroom teacher was completely unaware. He even looked at us with a satisfied expression, as if he was moved by the friendly, helpful relationship between us students. He didn't know. In the eyes of our classmates, we had become a complicated love triangle. After the dinner, some people were still energetic. They suggested going to a karaoke bar. Our homeroom teacher and the other faculty members politely declined. "We'll skip it so you guys can relax. Have fun, and send a message in the group chat when you get home." After his usual warnings, the teachers left. I didn't want to go either, but Leo insisted and dragged me along, wanting me to keep him company. And so the group moved to the karaoke place. I can't sing, so I stayed in a corner playing a dice game with Leo. Just then, Clara's voice came through the microphone. "Everyone! Today is the day Mark and I got together. Everything is on my tab." Her loud, bold voice echoed through every part of the room. A wave of cheering erupted. Mark stood beside Clara, a proud and happy smile on his face that he couldn't hide. Of course, some people looked over at me. They had all witnessed my overly devoted behavior during high school. Thinking about all I had done only for it to end like this, I saw all sorts of pitying looks. I didn't truly care. After all, I still had that fresh $20,000 from Clara's dad still warm in my pocket, so to speak. "David." Just then, a gentle girl's voice spoke next to me. I turned my head, confused. A beam of light from the karaoke machine swept across the girl's delicate face. Maybe my eyes were deceiving me, but I thought I saw the tips of her ears turn red. "David, can I apply to the same college as you?" "Huh?" Before I could even react, Leo exclaimed, "Sarah, are you serious? You want to apply to the same school as David?" I don't know if his voice was just that loud, or if it was just a coincidence that someone was changing the song. The room suddenly fell silent. Several pairs of eyes landed on me. I looked at the girl in front of me and finally remembered her. Sarah. The girl who shot the promotional video with Mark. I didn't really have a strong impression of her. The most memorable thing was that she was always ranked second in our grade. People called her the constant number 2. Even after I arrived, her rank never changed. Although we were in the same class, and our ranks were close, we sat at opposite ends of the classroom. Plus, in high school, all my attention was focused on helping Clara and studying. Only now did I have a moment to really look at her. Because of Leo's outburst? Sarah's ears turned an even deeper shade of red, but her eyes were bright. She was still waiting for my answer. Sure. I actually had no idea what Sarah's scores were, but applying to college was her decision. Which school she applied to was her choice. She didn't need to tell me. After I answered, Sarah smiled. But then a sharp sound of a trash can being kicked echoed through the room. Everyone jumped. Their attention was pulled back to the other side of the room. In a sofa, in the corner. Clara was sitting there, her expression impossible to read. But you could feel the dark energy and her grim face. "David!" Clara suddenly shouted my name into the microphone. "I need to talk to you." I frowned in confusion. So did Mark. But beyond his confusion, there was a quick flash of anger and jealousy I couldn't quite understand. But that flash of anger and jealousy quickly turned into triumph and provocation at Clara's next words. "What is it?" "When you fill out your applications, stay away from the school Mark got into." Clara's voice was cold, like an order. "Why should he?" It was Leo who immediately spoke up for me. He shot up from his seat. "Clara, don't take it too far. David can apply to whatever school he wants. What's it to you?" Clara ignored him. Her cold gaze shot across the room to me. "Mark and I are going to college together. I don't want to see you at his school." So that was the reason. She was probably afraid I'd get in the way of her relationship with Mark. A smile couldn't help but creep onto Mark's lips at Clara's words. Leo was furious. "Clara, if it wasn't for taking you to the hospital, would David have missed the early acceptance exam? Would that spot have gone to Mark?" Clara's face was like stone. Everyone else might forget, but she couldn't. On the day of the early acceptance exam, she had pretended to have a stomachache and made me take her to the hospital. The whole point was to make me miss the test, so that Mark could get the spot. "Leo, watch your mouth!" Mark snapped. "David didn't take the exam seriously himself. Why blame someone else?" One person was willing to ask. The other was willing to help. "Who's to blame?" "You!" Leo was so angry he was speechless. "You still can't do this. David already missed the early acceptance exam for that school. What right do you have to stop him from applying to it now?" It was indeed too much. The other students started quietly talking among themselves. Clara's expression started to look worse. Her eyes were heavy, carrying a warning and displeasure. Just then, Sarah, who had been quiet this whole time, suddenly spoke up. "Clara, don't worry. David won't be applying to that school. He was never interested in it in the first place." When she said that, it wasn't just Clara who was surprised. Even I was. What surprised me was how Sarah knew. It was true. I had my own goals. The school with the early acceptance program wasn't one of them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have just handed the spot over to Mark back then. "What do you mean?" Clara's tone grew heavier. Sarah went quiet again. She just shrugged and met my eyes, as if we shared a little secret. Mark couldn't keep his smile. He let out a couple of forced laughs to ease the tension. "Clara didn't really mean anything by it, right?" He looked at Clara. Her gaze, fixed on me, was intense and sharp. I couldn't tell if she was staring at me or at Sarah. Finally, Clara let out a sudden, cold laugh. "That's for the best. David, it's not like we'll be seeing much of each other anymore anyway. The person I've always liked is Mark. I was only your desk mate because I wanted you to help me study. Now that we're both going to college, you can stop hanging around me." It was as if Clara was trying to declare something final. Her face was hidden in the half-light, her expression hidden. I already knew all of this. But she didn't know my real reason for getting close to her. She still thought my willing dedication was because I liked her. But why was Clara making a point to tell me all this? I looked at her calmly. I was a little confused, but I didn't want to know the answer. "Okay, I understand," I said, my first genuine words to Clara that evening. The room was quiet. Everyone had come to have a good time. No one expected to witness a very public breakup drama. My calm and composed reaction seemed to be outside their expectations. They all stared at me in surprise. But it was Clara who looked out of place. I had given her the exact answer she wanted, agreeing with everything she said. Yet her cold, indifferent face grew even darker. After the party, I never saw Clara again. When it was time to submit our college applications, everyone was busy choosing schools. I happened to run into Sarah at a fast food place. Ever since I casually agreed to her request to apply to the same college, she had been texting me every day. When it was officially time to apply, she just asked me to come out and do it with her. She copied my choices one by one. "You don't have to pick all the same ones as me, you know." "David, I may be the constant number 2, but I've always wanted to catch up to you. I didn't get the chance in high school, but we still have college." Sarah had such a sweet face. When she smiled, her eyes curved into bright crescents. It was impossible to feel any negative emotions around her. Feeling helpless, I just let her do what she wanted. After we finished and submitted our applications, I heard a familiar voice. "David? Sarah? What are you two doing here?" Mark, with his arm linked through Clara's, asked in surprise. "Don't tell me you two are—" His gaze wandered suggestively between me and Sarah. Clara, on the other hand, had a cold expression. "What are you doing here?" I thought after that night. We had parted on bad terms, essentially cutting all ties. From Clara's attitude, it seemed she didn't want anything to do with me anymore. But now she was questioning me in that demanding tone. It made me uncomfortable, but before I could say anything, Sarah lifted her chin. "Whatever you're doing, we're doing. Do you even need to ask?" Sarah's tone was light and breezy, but it angered Clara. Clara's eyes burned as she stared at me. "Since when are you two so close?" Sarah shot back. "You only transferred to our class in sophomore year. I was in the same class as him for a year longer than you. Of course we're close." I never knew Sarah had such a sharp way of speaking. Being cut off repeatedly, Clara's face turned completely dark. She gave me a deep look, then turned and walked away. Mark, behind her, almost didn't keep up. He chased after her, calling her name. After they left, Sarah turned back to me, smiling as if nothing had happened. "David, where were we?" I gave a helpless laugh. By the time I parted ways with Sarah and went home, it was already dark. A car was parked at the intersection. At first, I didn't pay it any mind, until the driver laid on the horn. Only then did I see Clara's face through the windshield. I ignored it and started to walk away. It was Clara, who angrily called out to me. "David, stop! Who said you could leave?" She tried to grab my wrist forcefully, but I reacted faster, pulling away and creating distance between us. Clara pursed her lips, her gaze dark and gloomy, but she still demanded an answer. "David, why were you with Sarah today?" I looked at her, confused. Leaving aside the fact that who I was with was none of her business, given how angry she was now, what right or position did she have to question me? "David, you don't have to deliberately find some girl just to make me jealous. You're a man. Don't you have any self-respect?" Her lecture made me laugh. "Clara, you don't actually think I like you, do you?" Clara froze. She stared at me, and I stared back at her. Perhaps the question and the slight disdain in my eyes were too obvious. She actually stumbled under my direct gaze, her voice turning dry and hoarse. What do you mean? Why do you think the principal agreed to let you transfer classes? Why did our homeroom teacher say nothing about a struggling student like you joining an advanced class? And why did he assign me, the #1 student, to be your desk mate? You'd rather believe that my help and closeness were because I liked you, instead of considering any other reason? Did you really think that with my high school workload, I had the free time to play some kind of rescue game with you? My string of calm questions. Clara's eyelids trembled, and her face went sickly pale. I curved my lips into a smile. "Oh, princess, you're so naive." That night, even Clara's steps were shaky as she turned to leave. I was a little worried at first, but my phone remained quiet the entire next day. Looks like my concern was unnecessary. Thankfully, the following period was exceptionally peaceful. It was as if Clara had disappeared. She didn't post in the group chat, and she didn't bother me. The class group chat was often active, though. Most of the talk was about graduation trips and college acceptance letters. I'm not one to join in on the fun. Most of the time, I just watched. The only people I kept in regular contact with were my good friend Leo and Sarah, who, after we submitted our applications, found all sorts of excuses to chat with me and meet up. I could guess the deeper meaning behind her chats, but I honestly wasn't in the mood to start a relationship. Until the acceptance letters came out. Sarah asked me again. "David, did you get your acceptance letter?" "I did." "So, what are your plans now?" Unfortunately, Sarah and I didn't get into the same school. We were off by a single point on our scores and ended up in different cities. "I want to go check out the city where my university is." This was something I had planned for a long time. After burying my head in books for over a decade, I had never really gone out and explored. Fortunately, agreeing to Clara's dad's request meant I had enough money to go see the world a bit after graduation. Sarah didn't say anything more. She just told me to have a safe trip and be careful. "I will." After replying to that message, I ran into someone unexpected. Mark. Over the past few days, my classmates had been receiving their acceptance letters one by one. Mark, with his early acceptance, had gotten his even earlier than us. I was wondering why he would come looking for me. Then he hit me with a barrage of questions. "David, what did you say to Clara? She's not going to the same university as me anymore." After hearing Mark's accusation, I finally understood why he was here. This campus couple, who everyone thought had finally earned their happy ending, their relationship had lasted less than 2 short months. What does that have to do with me? If it wasn't for you, why would Clara suddenly cut off contact with me? Why would she disappear for days? Why do you have to take everything from me? Being number 1 wasn't enough. You had to take Clara from me too? Mark glared at me, his voice full of resentment. I frowned, looking at him like he was crazy. "First of all, I never took the number 1 spot from you. I had held the top rank for 3 years straight. Mark was the one who wasn't good enough. Instead of working hard to surpass me, he blamed me for doing too well. And second, I have absolutely no interest in Clara. The moment you had Clara try to distract me from my studies, pulling me into your little couple's game, there was no way I could ever genuinely like her. Over 3 years of high school, Mark and I had very little interaction. I didn't understand why he would harbor such hostility towards me for no reason. We should have been rivals who respected each other's academic abilities, but he resorted to such petty tricks. In my mind, he had already lost the right to compete with me. Mark was so angry he was speechless. All his previous arrogance and triumph had vanished. I didn't have time to stand there with him reminiscing about the past 3 years. I turned to leave, and immediately saw Clara arriving. Didn't Mark just say she had been missing for days? Here she was. I was puzzled and stared at her. Only then did I notice that Clara looked even worse than the last time I'd seen her. I don't know if she heard what I just said. Her expression was like she'd been dealt a heavy blow. Her face was as white as a sheet of paper. "So, you knew all along?" She stared at me as if talking to herself. "You only got close to me because of my dad." Clara's voice was as light as the wind. I heard the second half of her sentence. I expected her to find out the truth eventually. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you lie to me?" Clara sounded like she was the victim. The way I looked at her was no different from how I had just looked at Mark. In this whole affair, she was the one who lied first. Now she was acting like a victim and interrogating me. "Clara, if you're confused, go talk to someone." I could tolerate her lack of basic smarts, but I couldn't tolerate her lack of emotional awareness. I had no desire to get tangled up with her and started to walk away. I brushed past Clara as I left. It was just a light touch, but Clara seemed to be pushed by some invisible force, stumbling back half a step. After I left, I heard Mark and Clara arguing behind me. I don't know what Clara said. Mark yelled, "Clara, what do you mean? You've fallen for David, haven't you? Then what does that make me?" A few days later, Leo sent me a message. "David, did you hear? Mark and Clara broke up." He sighed. "I thought their relationship was so strong. Clara even told you not to apply to Mark's school for his sake. The summer's not even over and they've already split." While he was still guessing the reason for their breakup, some of the more gossip-loving classmates were already quietly asking me if I had anything to do with it. Clara was asking me which university you went to. Do you think she realized she actually likes you after all? I heard Clara had a huge fight with her dad and ran away from home. Her dad even called our homeroom teacher. David, do you know what's going on? I had been trying to avoid any news about Clara, but everyone was bored right after graduation. I don't know. I'm not really clear on the details. Tired of being asked, I just muted all my notifications. I packed my bags to do what I had long planned to do. On the day I left, I saw Clara again. "David, where are you going?" she asked relentlessly. I couldn't help but find it funny. "Clara, you're the one who said you didn't want to see me, that I should stop bothering you. But look who's the one doing the bothering now." The person in front of me looked embarrassed by my sarcastic remark, but she still stubbornly blocked my way. "David, if it wasn't for my dad, you would have never paid any attention to me. Would you?" Of course. My goal was very clear from the very beginning. For someone from a family like mine, education was the only way out. I studied hard, worked diligently, all for the sake of a better future one day. Why would I stop my progress for a rebellious, failing classmate? Because of love? Ridiculous. A high school romance would only be a stumbling block on my path to success. Growing up, I always hated it when teachers made me sit with underperforming students. They always used the excuse of classmates helping each other to improve together. But if a person could change just by sitting next to a good student, then there wouldn't be so much competition in this world, would there? Without Clara, I probably would have scored even higher. But then I thought about it. Clara, you used me as a tutoring tool. And didn't I use you as a tool to make money and ease my family's financial burden? We both got what we wanted. It was a simple exchange. It was just a matter of what I chose. Maybe my words were too direct. Clara's lips trembled slightly. Her eyes were so red they looked like they were about to spill tears. "I don't believe you. David, we were desk mates for so long. I don't believe you never had any feelings for me. Otherwise, you wouldn't have brought me an umbrella in the rain or medicine when I was sick." She grabbed me, desperately trying to find proof in my eyes that I liked her too. Seeing my silence, her eyes filled with joy and excitement again. "Yes, I did have feelings for Clara once. Clara, do you remember the sports festival in our freshman year? You helped a boy with low blood sugar to the nurse's office." I looked at Clara, my voice calm and detached. Clara didn't remember. She looked at me, confused. I told her, "That boy with low blood sugar was me." Back then, I didn't have money for breakfast. When I fainted, there were gasps all around. Before anyone else could react, it was Clara who rushed over. Without a word, she helped me to the nurse's office. The Clara back then was energetic, kind, and brave. Even though I didn't know her name yet, I had already developed a good impression of her. So when Clara's father found me later, it made the decision easy. That's why I agreed to everything that followed. I knew that grades didn't define a person. I also believed that the Clara who saved me back then couldn't be a bad person at heart. I was willing to help her. But my crush only lasted for 3 days. 3 days later, I saw Clara having a fight with Mark. Clara asked Mark why he was ignoring her. Mark said unhappily, "You say you like me, but you go and help other guys. Your like is completely fake." "I didn't. I really—" Clara fumbled for an explanation in front of him, but Mark wouldn't listen. In the end, Clara gave in. Fine, I won't talk to other guys anymore, okay? I'll only be good to you." Only then did Mark nod, satisfied and arrogant. And after that, on Mark's instruction, Clara defaced my photo on the school's honor roll. The reason was simply that Mark had told her I had stolen his #1 rank. These things seemed small, but they were enough to drop my good impression of Clara to 0. But just as I was debating whether I should return the money Clara's dad gave me and admit I wasn't up to the task, Clara herself appeared before me. By then, Clara had transferred to our class. She couldn't keep up and always came in last on exams. She was dragging down the class average. During a class meeting, our homeroom teacher called my name. "Class president, if a student is struggling, as the president, you should take the initiative to help your classmates improve together. Understood?" So, after class, I went to find Clara. "Hey, these are my study notes. You can borrow them. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me." At the time, Clara looked at me in surprise. After a moment, she mumbled, "Oh, thanks." I thought Clara was too proud and arrogant, that even if she didn't understand, she wouldn't ask me. But I was wrong. A week later, Clara came to see me with breakfast. "Class president, I don't quite understand your notes. Can you teach me?" Of course. I had taken her father's money. If Clara was willing to learn, I was definitely willing to teach. So every day, I gave up my lunch break and evening study hall to tutor her. I even offered to be her desk mate. I thought Clara had truly changed her life around, until I went to drop off a workbook for her over the weekend and accidentally overheard her conversation with her friends. "Clara, you've been getting way too close to that top student lately." "Yeah, is our girl doing it on purpose to make the school heartthrob jealous?" "But why David? Is he even as handsome as Mark?" Clara's friends chattered on, all of them asking if she'd lost her mind. Clara scoffed. "What do you guys know? Mark said he'd be with me if I got into college. Who else would I ask for help besides David? Besides, he's the #1 student. If I make him tutor me, he won't have time to study himself. When his grades drop, Mark will be #1. Loud laughter came from inside the house. They said Clara was playing a long game. I thought so too. It's not that I wasn't angry, but I reminded myself that helping Clara was just a business transaction with her father. I shouldn't invest any other feelings. Clara wasn't worth my affection, and so there would be no Clara in my future. That was just to verify the results of my tutoring. Clara's dad had said, as long as Clara showed improvement on her exams, he would give me a bonus. It was just a minor stomachache. Of course, I wasn't going to let it affect my performance review. "All the concern I showed for your studies was because of your father's request." Clara's tears finally fell. She didn't dare to look at me anymore. Her eyes grew redder, and she tried her best to hold it in, but she bent over and turned her back to me. Large tears splattered onto the ground. I never intended for things to get this unpleasant with Clara. After the college exams, we should have just gone our separate ways. Who she dated didn't matter to me. It was just her repeated unnecessary possessiveness toward me that I found utterly annoying. I belonged to myself, not to anyone else. After I left, Clara stood there, lost and devastated. I boarded a train heading north and stepped into a new phase of my life. I found a part-time job as a tutor. Thanks to the Clara case study, many parents were eager to hire me. Eventually, I started selling the study notes I had once prepared for Clara online. The income was surprisingly good. After starting college, I never saw Clara again. But I still heard news about her from the class group chat. After a huge fight with her dad, Clara stubbornly refused to go to college. A classmate told me, It was our homeroom teacher who finally stepped in. He painstakingly persuaded her, telling her not to disappoint the hopes and efforts of so many people. If Clara gave up now, wouldn't that be like throwing away everyone else's hard work? Only then did Clara agree to enroll. As for what happened to Clara after she went to college, no one knows. But 5 years later, at a class reunion, Clara didn't come. And neither did Mark. You guys don't know? The year Mark graduated from college, it was revealed that he had tried to secure a graduate school recommendation by causing trouble for a professor's family. The professor's wife went to the university to demand an explanation, and Mark was expelled. As for Clara, she was originally going to come, but when she heard you were bringing a date, she decided not to.